What is going on, everybody? Mike Kurland here, known as the host, I guess, on the show, because Mike Simione, aka SP Streamer, left me behind. You can follow me on Twitter, Mike_Kurland, but it's okay. Mike's away. I said it earlier. The boys will play. I brought in two very awesome guys to join me today. Matt, obviously, to my right. I guess I'm bad with this whole camera thing. To my right is Matthew Davis. You can follow him on Twitter at Matty Wood. Below us is at Nathhan Dokken. You can follow him on Twitter at Nathhan Dokken. Matt, you got a whole bunch going on over there. You just joined FTN Network. You're co-host of the FTN Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Nathan, it's well documented at this point now. You're over at Roto Fanatic. Honestly, congrats to both of you guys. You guys are doing great things, big things in the industry. Welcome on in. What's going on, guys? Matt, talk about it a little bit, man. How does it feel to be over there at FTN?
It's fantastic. Got the podcast up and running. I want to say next week we'll already hit our 10th podcast, and I'm doing that with Matt Kupferle. And other than that, right now I'm pumping out the weekly Fab article and some MLB props. And other than that, I'm just focusing on DFS and trying to grind out the crazy NFC season that has been quite the carousel to start. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm stoked to hang out with you and Nathan.
Well, dude, I told you it was going to be a party tonight. Because, I mean, when you think of Nathan, you think of, gotta have a drink. So, it just is. He brings that party atmosphere. And then you have me who just doesn't know how to shut up. And then, yeah, Matt. Yeah. So, you can follow, I don't know if I mentioned, you can follow these guys, like I said, on Twitter, Nathan, at Nathhan Dokken, Matt, at _Matty Wood _ I'm supposed to do that at the beginning of the show. My apologies. But anyway, regardless, what are you guys drinking tonight? And wait, I lied. I'm skipping a step. Dang it. Nathan, I apologize, man. Introduce me. So, yeah, I know you're over at Roto Fanatic. I apologize for messing that one up, but tell us about it, man. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, I've set out my first starting pitcher barometer for week 2. I kind of brought that over from Fantrax, so you can check that out. That's my first work, and I'm going to be doing some podcasting there as well. We're still kind of hashing out the details, but it's going to be a daily show, so there's going to be a ton of content over there at Roto Fanatics, and very, very soon. I'm looking forward to working with those guys. It's a great group of dudes. I'm super stoked to be with them.
Yeah, it is. Matt Williams, good friend of ours over here, and he's kind of a little everywhere these days. But all right, now to the fun stuff. People came to drink and have a good time. Matty was so ready to just show us off. What are you drinking tonight, buddy? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm currently drinking a beer called Hula Haze Hazy IPA, and that's a local beer. There's the pour, so you guys can see the label of the can, get the beer there, and it's in Atascadero. And my buddy actually, Paso Robles, which is north of Atascadero. My buddy Tony Baggs had these delivered to me. He's a beer distributor for them and wanted me to try them, and he knows that my wife and I have been quarantined, and it's hard for me to get my hands on really good beer, and so he was thoughtful and sent those my way, and so I'm enjoying that right now. And then once you guys introduce your beverages as well, I'm going to be taking a shot of some Casamigos tequila to give it cheers to you guys. So I'm here to party with you guys. Fuck yeah.
Awesome.
And Dokken, what you got, buddy? What you bringing? What you drinking?
Yeah, so I wish I could come on this show and represent my home state of North Dakota, the better Dakota, because we do have some sweet brews here in Bismarck. I want to shout out the Laughing Sun Brewery. Their Feast Like a Sultan IPA is one of my favorite beers in the world. They've got a great strawberry wheat as well. Fortunately, like I was telling you guys beforehand, I had a super busy day. I didn't get a chance to go to the food store, so I just had to grab whatever was in my fridge at the time. And so tonight I am enjoying a couple of Founders Breakfast Stouts, some double chocolate coffee oatmeal stout.
That sounds interesting. How is that?
It's very good. I like it. And it is 8.3% alcohol, so I'm going to get drunk.
Well, you know what? I was telling Matt before you got it, and this is behind the scenes. I was telling him, man, if there was ever a time that we need to have a guys' night out once a week, this show has honestly been so awesome because every night in the middle of the week, I have an excuse to drink now. Instead of doing it alone at home, I get to do it with friends. And this week, I was drinking this it's Reef Donkey. I was drinking this last week, but today I got Purple Haze Raspberry Lager from Abita, or I guess I've never had it before. But you know what, gentlemen, we should have done this before. We've already been drinking, but cheers to the fun night ahead. We're gonna talk about a little bit.
Shot of tequila.
Go ahead, and I'm gonna crack my beer.
Ow!
I love that sound, man.
Have you guys had Casamigos tequila?
No.
Oh man, this is not fair. This is not beer. This is like gonna go down like water, and I'm gonna be like 4 deep before long. This is awesome. This tastes just like raspberry. Oh man, this raspberry lager is no joke. Okay, it's dangerous. So anyway, what we're gonna talk about tonight, we're gonna go over some news and notes, some recent injuries, We're going to dive into some call-ups, maybe some names we expect to be, going on or coming up after them. And then we'll kind of talk into some hot starts, slow starters, and see what we feel about them. Let's start with the news, the big news, a couple of injuries right up top. Scherzer hurt. Albies hurt. Albie seems a little more serious. We're looking at like 10 days to 2 weeks minimum, it sounds like. Scherzer, I saw you. Start with you, Matt, because I saw you tweet about Scherzer, and that popped into my head right away as well. What are your thoughts on the Scherzer injury? And they say day to day, but I know you're not quite buying it.
Yeah, so that was the same quote that he gave last year with the back injury, and it's not only that it is a hamstring, which could be just hamstring tightness. I know that sometimes players do get tight at the bottom half of their body, and that can be an issue. But the hamstrings do correlate; the muscles and tissues do correlate with the back, so that kind of brings up a red flag or a blinker to me. Like, okay, so maybe what happens if the back starts to flare up now because the hamstrings are getting tight? So that could be a negative domino effect for Scherzer. And it's not, if you've already, obviously you've drafted him, you own him, you can't do anything with him. So it's just it's a wait and see situation. And fortunately for now, it's not a Justin Verlander or a Corey Kluber situation where they are saying that it's 3 to 4 weeks before a ramp up. So hopefully it is day to day, but I am a little bit leery towards Max Scherzer's situation.
Yeah, what about you, Dokken? Nathan, Dokken, which one do you prefer, man? Let me ask you that right there.
Just call me Dokken.
Dokken, all right, Dokken. Yeah. Well, what are you thinking with Scherzer's injury here?
I was kind of it's weird because I was fading Scherzer and Verlander. This sounds like hindsight 2020, I know, but a lot of those old pitchers are guys that I avoid. I want to get off that ship before they start to sink. I want to be off the year earlier, and I say all that as that was like my opinion going into the normal 2020 season, so back in like March, and then all of a sudden we're playing 60 games and I'm doing a couple of drafts at the last minute, and it's like I don't even care anymore. It's 60 games, so you just throw up your hands, whatever happens. So I was all prepared to take Scherzer, but before that, I mean, there was that back injury that he dealt with last year, and at his age those pitchers only tend to get more and more nicked up. So I drafted a lot of Austin Voth in my leagues, and so hopefully he finally gets a second start at some point now that the Washington Nationals are playing some games. So if he misses any time, I think Voth is going to be a pretty good guy to pick up there. Fetty is kind of another guy who's floating around, but he's got more walks and strikeouts right now, so I'm definitely more interested in Voth.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Maddie, when it comes to the Scherzer side of things, that if that correlates, that's concerning because I think he might have been compensating then. What if that back issue, maybe it's still lingering and he's compensating with the legs. Next thing you know, that's restrained it. And he's been dealing with it for what sounds like since opening day almost. So it's one of those things that I'm with you. Would you buy low if you were in a trade league right now, or would you try to, or would you be, if you owned them, would you try to sell them, or you kind of have to wait and see? It's kind of I don't know. It's a tough area.
Yeah, I don't ever trade for somebody that is currently injured, regardless of the name and pedigree. So for me, regardless, if I had him, maybe I would try and pawn him off and say, hey, I got Max Scherzer. He's day to day. Look, he's quoting this, he's saying this, and see what you can get for him and try and fish him out that way. But I don't buy or trade for anybody that's injured because they're not going to give me anything that I want now, and I'm always in win now mode. So. No, I don't want to. And you mentioned the correlation of if he was trying to do something here, and then it could, it impacts one thing like the hamstring, and then it correlates to the back. Remember his last outing previously to the opening day, his velocity was kind of down a little bit, and people were starting to freak out. And then opening night before the rain out, his velocity was fine, and it was fine in his other two outings. But what if that was playing into it as well? Was trying to force something, and we know how he's a huge competitor like that, and I don't know. It just seems like he could have been pushing it a little bit too much early, and that's his attitude, which is awesome, and I love that. But no, I'm out right now.
There was also this picture floating around during the preseason of Max Scherzer, and he looked like he was 58 years old. So that was a little terrifying for me immediately. Like zero shares.
Did he start smoking cigarettes in the off season or something?
Different brand cigarettes for the miscolored eyes too. One's menthol, one's like a red.
Menthol, yeah.
You gotta have whoever's classier gets the blue eye, right? Like that's how it works. And like the dirtier the cigarette, definitely on the brown side. 100%. This is like podcasting gold. Brent, Exit Velo Brent wants to know if you're a Twins fan. Right? Are you a Twins fan, Nathan?
You're damn right I am.
Damn right he is. And He said no trivia. Sorry, I did it. He actually asked for no trivia. We usually do a game of sorts. Mike wasn't here. I decided to skip the trivia because I wanted to get to the drinking and fun. So here we are. Even though the trivia turns into drinking because I usually end up chugging a beer every time because I am terrible at trivia. Are either of you guys any good at trivia at all?
No.
Especially on the fly, on video. No. People are watching. Well, I meant to.
What kind of trivia?
It's always baseball related. What we do here, it's always baseball related. But it starts with like really, really hard questions to really easy ones, and usually it's like I usually am really crappy at giving the questions, so I start really hard and end really hard, or I start really easy or end really easy. So it's and I feel like maybe I just need to give up with the questions, but whatever. But yeah, that's all I got. So yeah, no trivia tonight. I apologize.
And do all the questions, if any listener that's watching the show, their questions. I saw that the exit velo, it popped up here on the screen.
That's me.
How that worked? Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
I control that.
Okay, right on. I like that.
He has the power.
Yeah, I got the power. I'm hungry with power. Yes, I love it. No, not my style. Way too much stress. All right. Back to drinking and less stress. Well, more stress. I need a drink. Ozzy Albies is hurt. I have a lot of shares of this guy. Were you guys in on Albies this year? Do you guys have any shares? What are your thoughts on this injury as a whole? We'll start with you, Dokken.
Yeah, I loved Albies actually quite a bit. I had a few shares. I actually don't have a ton of leagues this year just because,
everything.
Because 2020. So the percentage of leagues in which I have him are high. So it does definitely suck. Sounds like he is going to be out a while. So, obviously, hopefully everybody has unlimited ILs this year. Everybody's able to change their league settings to that, and you can just stash them away. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. If you need the bodies and you don't have a deep bench, I mean, he's got to be a cut for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning there. It's tough. I hate to say that too, and I'm an Albies guy. Obviously, IL spot mustache, no doubt. But like, hey, Maddie, you play in a ton of high stakes. If you had Albies on a team like that, where you couldn't stash him or couldn't put him on the IL spot, would you stash him? Because we're talking at least 2 weeks, and if it's a wrist, it could sap his power. And he's more of an accumulator anyway. And I didn't honestly factor that enough into the second half drafts or the short season drafts. So I'm kind of like, I probably should have been better about that as well. But isn't he also a slow starter? Like, I'm just rambling at this point because it's all popping up. It's all coming back to me. But yeah, what are you doing in those high stakes leagues there with him?
Well, so the first thing that I've always loved about Ozzy Albies is the sub 20% strikeout rate, and albeit a short season this year, 28.3% is what he had, and then he wasn't hitting from both sides of the plate, and he wasn't hitting right-handed, and he's better against left-handed pitching. So that was another concern. And then now that we have him out for 2 to 3 weeks, and it sounds like it's closer to 3 weeks, if anything, when they mentioned a few weeks. And I don't want to say, fortunately, I don't have any shares because he's really fun to watch. And I would have been in on him in that third round in the main event. But I did have Jose Altuve ahead of Ozzy Albies. So I ended up going Jose Altuve in one of the main events in the third round, and Albies was still there. So I did go with Altuve, and I'm going to have some concerns, especially because a lot of that value that he was providing was in the 2-hole, and Dansby Swanson is crushing it right now in the 2-hole. So if he continues to do that, he's not going to be moved from that spot. So then where is Ozzy hitting? He's going to be like hitting next to Ender Inciarte and Nick Markakis. And if that's the case when he comes back, and you talked about the wrist might possibly zapping power, that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. So in a 15-team high-stakes NFBC format with no IL spots, I would probably be cutting Ozzy Albies this weekend.
Isn't that crazy to say? Because it's that type of year. And Corey just hit us with a question, or made a statement, I should say, because you were talking about Voth Dokken. He could be slated for 2 starts versus Baltimore. That can go 2 very different ways. Is it in Baltimore or are we at Washington? Because at Baltimore, that could go very ugly because although we don't like to admit the Orioles have any type of hitters, they have enough to do damage in Camden. Anybody can do damage in Camden. So although that is exciting, I'm not going to poo-poo it too much. I always, what it is like I'm a very positive person, but I also see the worst case scenario on a lot of things, unfortunately. And that's just the case. And of course, nice hat. Come from the guy with the Marlins logo. Listen, man, we're doing work, even though it's against the Orioles. Speaking of the Orioles, wow, it's 6-6 tonight. Anyway, so yeah, as a whole, I guess we can actually sticking with the Braves. Soroka's out for the year. I mean, what are they going to do to replace him? I mean, you think that they have to go out and make a trade, right? What do you think, Dokken?
Well, yeah, they don't have a whole lot of in-house replacements. We were just talking about that last week on the Nasty Cast when he was out and kind of looking up and down their roster. One guy that I've always had an affinity for is Bryce Wilson. I always feel like he's kind of been overshadowed by all the other young talent in that system, but he also has failed to really come to fruition at the major league level. He's always kind of struggled, but I think he's got an underrated 3-pitch mix, so they could maybe bring him up. He could do some damage. I know that Touki Toussaint had a pretty decent 4-inning stretch there the other day, but he's, I believe, tossing a new slider according to Fangraphs, and it had terrible numbers. So I don't think that's really going to save him. So I kind of thought there might be something there, but then I kind of think not. But I mean, in terms of within the system, Jaciel De La Cruz is a guy that I like, but he's maybe more of a long relief type, especially he's still pretty young. But otherwise, I don't really see a whole heck of a lot else in house for him. They might have to do a trade.
I do see that Toussaint threw pretty much a gem tonight, 6.2 innings, 9 Ks, and 83 pitches. But
I was going to play devil's
Oh.
advocate because it sucks that Toussaint's pitching tonight because if I could show you the show notes here, I was going to rave about before tonight's start. So he went 6 2/3, 9 strikeouts. But before that, he had a 33.3 strikeout rate and a 15.6 swinging strike rate. And albeit that was 7 innings or whatever that he's pitched, he cut the sinker and added the slider that Dokken mentioned. And the slider, albeit hasn't been effective,
It was getting crushed.
So my high stakes NFBC fantasy partner Zach Betancourt has been watching the game as well tonight, and you'll notice that Toussaint was kind of effectively wild, and he was kind of getting ahead of hitters tonight with that slider that was getting crushed, but it was kind of working, and then the hitters were kind of working backwards because they didn't know what was coming. And his velocities look good. He's going deep in the pitch counts. We saw him go 6 2/3 tonight. He gave up 3 runs against a talented Blue Jays lineup. So I added him in 3 of the main events out of the 5 that I'm in last week. And if he's available anywhere else, I'm going to look to add him just simply because of the lack of depth. We do know that he has the pedigree and the upside. We've seen him flash that a little bit last year or the year before that. And then he was, it was rocky, and that happens with young pitchers. But I like what I've been seeing, and I'm willing to take the chance, or I already have taken the chance. So I'm putting my money in on Touki.
And I just saw this. I don't know. Maybe I'm lagging on my end. But Maddie's stash, my lord, is beautiful. Yes,
Thank you.
it is beyond beautiful. It actually almost had its own Twitter handle entering the night. But I couldn't. I just figured I'm like, let me not, because he will take over the show, and it already has. So for those that are listening and haven't seen this, just all you have to do is press play for like 5 seconds. You'll see this glorious quarantine stash, and you'll know what we're talking about. He's bringing the 70s back.
Right.
Yeah. Goodness. It's going. I need another drink. Speaking of, you know what? All this news is negative. This is why I need another drink. It's almost like I know the notes or something, right? Asuna's out for the year. Roberto Asuna's out for the year. Seeking a second opinion. More than likely needs TJ at this point. Next man up, obviously Ryan Presley. I think he's obviously a must add, but are there guys like Trevor Gott you might bite into? I know Taylor Williams kind of struggled last night, but he seems to be the guy getting high leverage situations. Maybe he'll be getting more opportunities than not. Who are you targeting to make up some of these saves? Because we're talking about everybody going down. Maddie, where are you at on this one, man?
Yeah, it's Presley. He's the guy. I know that he had the blisters coming into the season, and then he had the cut on the cuticle that kind of limited his outings late last weekend and early this week. But we've seen the Astros save him right now. He hasn't been pitching all this week, actually, and I think that's because they haven't really had many high leverage situations or save situations. The beat reporters seem to think that Presley is the shoe-in to be the closer, but Dusty Baker has not mentioned him to be the closer yet. And then when they asked Dusty about that, he said that he wants to leave that open simply because I think they want to use Presley possibly in a high leverage situation. And that could be, late in the 7th inning or in the 8th inning, depending on the game situation. But I do think that he gets the bulk of the saves in Houston. And then the other 10 relievers, they're all rookies. So come on.
Yeah,
if you really and we've seen how teams finagle and okay, well, we don't want to use that, and you're going to cost more later or whatever. Presley is the most talented guy. He's the most guy with the most experience. They are still in win now mode, even though Josh James is banged up, and Justin Verlander's hurt. They don't, Zach Greinke's underperforming. Lance McCullers kind of, he's something else, and that's fucking another story. But so yeah, it's Ryan Presley for me. And simply, even if you just said there's 10 rookies, I would just say Ryan Presley.
Well, yeah, because
then it's Dusty Baker, right?
I was going to say that's the big one. So obviously, I would say I think we all agree it's Ryan Presley. But where are you at, Dokken, when it comes to just other replacements? Because Presley, there's a lot of places he was owned just because ratios and Ks, the occasional save opportunity, plus not to mention Osuna was maybe this is why Osuna was having this late start to camp. Maybe he was trying to pitch through this injury. We don't know. It makes sense now. That would make a lot of sense. Regardless, there was no news of this even being a thing during draft season, which pisses me off as an Osuna owner in many places. But I digress. Where are you going for saves if not Presley?
Just with the Astros?
Or no, in general, like overall, you could pick whoever you want, Trevor Gott, or just again, Bass obviously is pretty much universally owned these days. I'm just trying to go because it's a closer carousel right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Mike, are you saying? Sorry, are you saying like if you had Roberto Osuna and you needed to like hurry and scramble?
If you need saves and Presley's taken, you got to go elsewhere. I'm not talking about just the Astros. I was about to call them the Orioles. I don't want anything to do with Sussler, by the way, but it's a whole other discussion. Yeah, but he's part of this. It's just it's weird because I've never seen saves so plentiful as far as what's available, but I've also never seen so many low quality saves available at the same time. It's such a headache. That's why I'm saying, like, who are your guys that if you're taking a shot, like.
It's insane, yeah. So I was going to say, I mean, if you are trying to get me to pick somebody else in that Houston bullpen, I'm just going to punch myself in the nuts and call it a day. But instead, I mean, like you were saying, it's crazy. So in this short season, I was kind of pushing up the elite closers because, the jobs are secure. They're going to give you elite ratios and everything. But, man, if you went the opposite way and just punted it, you have come into so many crappy saves already. You're just in the money. So we talked about this again on the Nasty Cast this past week. James Karinchak is another guy who I handcuffed kind of all over the place. I had a couple of Ryan Presley shares as well, not because I saw anything coming with Osuna, but just because he's such a high-quality reliever that, should anything happen to Osuna, well, guess what? He steps in and he should be the man. Karinchak is kind of the same thing, and so far we've seen some decreased velocity from Brad Hand at the back end of that bullpen. And Karinchak has already got a save under his belt. So you're getting good numbers there, even if he's not in the closer role. And then Colorado, they should have at least a handful of saves every couple of weeks. And so Jairo Diaz is a pretty solid option there.
You got one today.
There we go.
Got 3 this week or within like 6 days.
Yeah.
Boom. What more can you ask for? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, both of those, I didn't speculate on him a whole lot because, there was 2 other guys, Wade Davis and Oberto, whatever his name is, Oberg, before he was the 3rd option. So I didn't really speculate on him anywhere, but I mean, now you have to pick him up. Salser, like you said, if you're desperate. And then Texas is kind of going crazy right now with Jose Leclerc out. So I've been speculating a little bit on Nick Goody, although, Edinson Volquez might be the guy. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on Edinson Volquez closer.
You can have him.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Yeah.
I don't. That's another situation I just don't want to chase.
Yeah, so there's a couple bullpens where you're going to get to a point where, okay, he blew it and he's now no longer the closer. So if like a hypothetical example, which will probably become reality, is Brandon Workman. And then it's like, oh, well, Matt Barnes is the guy. And then watch the fab go on Matt Barnes. That's just like total C4 in your vest, like just waiting to explode.
C4 in your vest.
Yeah. So the Texas situation is kind of similar to that. Jonathan Hernandez actually I keep mentioning his 16% career walk rate, and that's something that it frightens me as a reliever all the time. But he's looked good, and Woodyard has gone to him constantly in these high leverage situations. So I'm starting to buy in a little bit more that Jonathan Hernandez could be the guy there for Texas. But he did mention that he wants it to be a committee. So, Texas, Baltimore, Boston, a lot of those teams, it's kind of just you're going to piss your money away. You're going to spend too much fab, and it's going to be a nightmare for you, and it becomes more frustrating than anything. So I would just you did mention Taylor Williams. Yesterday he gave up 3 earned runs, and it was in the 8th inning, but it kind of showed you that that the manager has the confidence in Taylor Williams simply because that was when Mike Trout came up, and ironically he gave up a home run to Mike Trout. But they had been waiting and using. They are simply waiting and using Taylor Williams only in those high leverage 8th inning situations or in the 9th inning to close out a game. So I think they're going to keep going back to him. I know that people are wanting to start speculating on Hirano. So he could be a potential spec ad as well, simply because if Williams does have another hiccup and Hirano does come back, I know that he's on a 1-year deal. And so they could look to go to Hirano. And Hirano was drafted everywhere in the 15-team main event leagues, and he's now a free agent in a lot of them. So he could be a speculation for a couple bucks this weekend.
I'm so glad I don't have to chase saves in most of my leagues. I've been very fortunate, but it's getting quite old.
Way to brag.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I'm doing great on offense, great in saves, but I can't get a win or good ratios for my starters to save my life. So there is that. But move over to the offensive side of offensive side. I'm trying to think what's going on with the hitters, what side they play on. Chris Davis.
Are you buzzing yet, Mike?
You better have another beer.
I'm still working on it, bro. It's my third one. I'm working on my third one, dude.
So I'm about to pour another one, and all the beers I'm drinking are like, they're not 8.3% or whatever Dokken's having, but look at how metal this can is, though. It's called Omni's IPA. Look at that.
Whoa.
So yeah, that's
hopefully it tastes as good as it looks, but
it does.
That's the important part. This is almost like too fruity for me. Like the raspberry, it's not bad. It's refreshing, like if you're at the beach or something. But right now, I need something a little better. But regardless, I digress. We'll get to this news eventually. Chris Davis, platoon, possibly. I mean, he's only played against 2 lefties over the last week. Today, he went 2 for 3, I believe, against a lefty as well, with 2 RBI, no home runs, no doubles, no nothing. Are we seeing the full-on platoon here? Do you think he gets another shot against righties soon? What are we thinking, Dokken?
Man, I have invested heavily in Chris Davis on a bounce back year, so I really hope there's no platoon. It's been a handful of games. If he's platooning, that's one thing. There's not much you can do about it. You can speculate. I mean, if you've got him, you've got him at utility because he's DH only coming into the year. So you can fill in with whoever is the hottest guy on your waiver wire if need be, if you don't have any patience. But like you said, he's maybe coming around already today. I assume that he would just get back to crushing the ball as this year, assuming that he was healthy. And would you not assume he was healthy after all this time? So I was in on the bounce back. I'm going to be patient with him. Hopefully he comes around, but the short season, it's the theme. You can only be so patient. So I'm willing to wait it out right now, but in another week you can ask me again and I might be putting him on my bench.
And where are you, Maddie?
Cut. So there's a couple of things. I'm over here glancing at Fangraphs and then I'm glancing at my notes. I don't know why, I already wrote down what I'm looking at. So 35.7% K rate, the 125 ISO, which what we want Chris Davis is for his ISO, right? 55 WRC plus. Now, albeit we will talk about players later on, like when we're talking about hot starts and stuff, their video game numbers and stuff like that. So you do have to take a step back. And Dokken did mention that it is a small sample. And so this is baseball, and you can't buy in too much or, get too scared or too, worried about some of these guys. But the platoon situation does have me worried. The ballpark's never been good. The batting average has never been what we know that the 247 is something that we would hope for. So if he's not giving you that, he's not stealing any bases. And he's hitting low in that lineup. He's not the cleanup hitter anymore. And that's what we, back when we were paying up for him a little bit, was when he was the cleanup hitter. So he's now down in the lineup. He's being platooned. The batting average isn't there. The BABIP's at 154, so we could expect that to go up a little bit. But the K rate's alarming, and it's just, I would cut him. I think that especially with the National League having a DH as well, there's a lot of other options that are going to provide similar skill sets and possibly a little bit more. So if he doesn't get, and don't get me wrong, you might at me on Twitter in a week and he got hot and hit fucking 3 home runs and he's good to go. And that certainly that's his upside, right? That's what we drafted. That's what you hope. That's what you want. But there's just been, it's two years now. And last year was mediocre at best with a 220 average and whatnot. So yeah, I would probably cut Chris Davis. I had him, but that's in a 15-team NFBC main event format. So if you're playing in a 12-team or 10-team, I think there's just no room for him right now. But What are you thinking, Kurland?
Same thing. I mean, we can skip right to it. I dropped Edwin Encarnacion. I think they're like the same player at this point.
Yeah.
And I dropped him in a 12-teamer today. And I'm at the point where this is so full 2020. Not only did I drop Edwin, I dropped Paxton in a 12-teamer, mind you, for Dylan Moore and Jake Cronenworth. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, and I needed offense, so there's a little context there. And for a 12-teamer, these are 5 outfielders. There's a middle infield. So it's your typical deeper roster. And, the position flexibility helps and all that, blah, blah, blah. But that's where I'm at with these guys. Like, I don't want to sit around and wait. I don't have time while the standings alter daily. These are also daily leagues. These aren't weekly. So there's more movement in the standings more frequently because people are plugging and playing players. I just want to know, those are shallower formats, but am I crazy for dropping Edwin and Paxton? I mean, like I said, I'm dropping Davis. I mean, even after tonight, if I have him after tonight, I'll be a little more willing to hold on, I guess. But even then, it's like one more bad game or one more sit against a righty, I'm really done. But regardless, am I crazy for dropping these guys already?
I mean, so Paxton, the interesting thing about Paxton is it's going to put people in an uncomfortable spot if they haven't cut him yet. And especially in even a deeper league, if it is a 2-start weekly league like NFBC, what happens when he's a 2-step and it's against, let's say I don't know the exact schedule and how it would line up, but like, let's say one's against the Phillies and the other's against the Red Sox or even the Rays. Are you starting James Paxton if he's making those 2 starts right now? And if he's a cut, right? So, I mean, and that's like kind of like an old school mantra that I've taken away with playing with some of the older guys that NFBC Hall of Famers is they'll tell you anytime you have a guy and he's 2 starts, and if you're not starting him, scissors, you got to cut him.
Scissors.
It's out. You have to cut the fat, dude, because if you're not starting him in a 2-step, what are you doing? What are you doing with him? Are you waiting for a home start against the Pirates, right? Or like some like cush start and it's baseball. And if you're just holding a guy and sitting around for him to make that one like glowing start, he could still get rocked in that. And then he's just been dead weight. And then he's hurting your ratios when he does come in. So yes, we've seen Paxton pick up his velocity in the past. We've seen him correct things, but we know that he's had injury history in the past as well. And it just everything seems off with him right now. And if he's not going to ramp up his velocity, he's just no good for me. There's nothing. It's hard to want to, the name and the pedigree and like what they've done before, but this season is so fucking weird. You really just need to get with it and get used to doing some uncomfortable things, because if you don't and you want to stay in your comfortable ways, you're likely going to end up at the bottom of the sea with everybody else. So
yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable if you keep taking it in the butt. If you keep starting James Paxton, that velocity is way down.
Or that.
I mean, why are you starting him? I have no problem dropping him at all. So you have to take James Paxton with such a grain of salt. So he's an ace when he's on the mound, but he never pitches. He's hurt every year, and he's coming off like some serious back surgery. So I mean, I'm not surprised at all that he's struggling this year. I don't really see a bounce back. I think that he's probably just going to hit the IL and stay there for the rest of the year. And as far as Edwin Encarnacion, I would be quicker to cut him than Chris Davis, just because, I mean, the dude's 37 and the strikeout rate right now is at 40%. And like I said, small sample, it's 8 games, but at 37, I mean, I'm surprised he's been doing it this long, quite frankly. Like the bat speed just starts to slow down, contact rate slows down. And, digging into Chris Davis too, while we're doing this, just to kind of look at the micro version of all these numbers. I mean, the contact rate is down for him too. Barrel rate's way down. So it's definitely looking more like injury year Chris Davis than bounce back Chris Davis that I was hoping for. So, talking with you guys, like talking about it out loud, I'd definitely be more willing to cut him. But hopefully I can just bench him, keep my fingers crossed for another week. But yeah, as far as Paxton and E5, man, I would not feel bad dropping those guys.
I'm glad we're on the same page. Go ahead.
Real quick, Paxton. If he does, like Dokken mentioned, if he does end up on the IL, which a lot of people have kind of been talking this week, and even on Twitter, we're like, why isn't he on the IL? Well, he's had another bad outing. His velocity's down. All those guys are getting put on the IL, right? And Paxton has not been put there yet. So is he healthy? Has he always been healthy? Those are big question marks. And now his performance is just not there. So if he does get put on the IL, I'm going to give you guys one person that would be the person to scoop up, and that's Jonathan Loaiziga, or however you want to spell his name.
Loaiziga, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That's the guy. The high strikeout rate. I love the team context. He's been there for a few years now, and I think that he would be the guy to fill in there. And they were like the AL World Series favorites, so they're in trouble in my opinion, and they're going to need to figure it out sooner or later, or the Yankees might not be the World Series favorite.
And just to piggyback off that, Matty, just to throw one more name in there, Clark Schmidt from AAA. I mean, he is. I've watched a handful of his starts, and man, his off-speed stuff is nasty. He's made hitters just look crazy. So the fastball maybe not so great, but I like Clark Schmidt a lot. So I think he could be one of these guys coming up soon and make an impact.
What about
we have somebody saying, "What up, guys?" So I just want to say, "Hey, Freehold, love the name."
It's Rob. Rob,
it comes up as Freehold, man. And
we're gonna start
and we talked about getting bent over. So
yeah, no.
Hey.
What about real quick, Nathan? Since you're kind of a dynasty prospect guy, way more than I am. How about King as well? Is he somebody that could become something there as well as maybe even if he followed Schmidt or Loaizaga, or what are you in on him or?
Not really. I think for this year, it's more of the Schmidt, a little bit more of the closer impact guys. This, I like Loaizaga a lot too, so I do second what you say there. Hopefully, I can't imagine there's too much more turnover in that rotation, but if there is, we'll start paying more attention to that depth chart.
Oh, for
sure. It's going to be interesting because Tanaka, I think, outperformed what I'm expecting him to do, but I could be wrong. But I
was kind of thinking that he might come back next year because he struggled with that splitter grip so much last year, and he seemed to figure it out a little bit more at the end. And he just unfortunately, took that comebacker off the dome, so he's had a slow start to the season. So I kind of think that he's going to have a little bit of a bounce back. Not that I'm expecting a ton from him, but like 15 team, like you said, double dip kind of guy.
Sure. I am wondering because I think we heard a lot of pitchers complaining about gripping the ball last year, and it sounds like they brought back the same bouncy fun ball this year. So somebody like Tanaka, who had that late season success, obviously figured out how to hold the ball and kind of get his pitch back. Maybe he obviously has a grip for this ball now and should come back maybe doing what we expect him to do or doing what he showed he could do towards the end. I'm kind of intrigued by Tanaka, and I was completely out on him up until the kind of like I started by in, and of course the liner off the head. I was done. I was out with him. But I got to ask you, Matty, because you're very, very aggressive, it sounds like, when it comes to waiver wire and when it comes to dropping players. Is that you or the stash talking? Because the stash.
The stash is badass.
Thank you. I have a baby on the way in 3 weeks, so I'm not sure if I should just go full clean shave and be that.
Oh, whatever you do, don't wait to shave it. Don't wait to shave it until like a month after the baby is there, and then the baby will not recognize who you are. You just start screaming whenever he sees you or she.
Yeah. So what was your aggressiveness in fab and whatnot? So so it takes a lot to learn. So like this year before, like I did an early main event, and this one was by myself. It wasn't with Zach Betancourt, and I drafted Gavin Lux in the 13th round. And then a few days after that, I was already kicking myself in the teeth because he was a late arrival. And anybody that had that stamp of a late arrival, you should have already known to pump the brakes and kind of simmered down on them. And I didn't do that because of the pedigree and the team and the context and all of that. And so,
you're a fan.
Yeah. And I actually don't always I usually don't roster Dodgers players because I always get priced out on them for the most part. And I'm kind of like, oh, well, I'm not going to, step my game up because they're a Dodger. And I think it's my fanhood or whatever. So with Gavin Lux, I was kind of that way. And I cut him last week. And he was a 13th round pick for me in a main event. And you simply have to get rid of that mindset of, I drafted him here and he could do this. So I cut Gavin Lux. He was actually added in one of my main events, and he's still available in one. And I'm pretty sure that he'll get picked up just because he wants to be a speculation play. But in this 60-game season with no IL spots, you cannot be holding people on like that. And if you do, it's going to hurt you really bad, because we've seen what happens with St. Louis in the Detroit series. We've seen what happens with other teams like Philadelphia, New York, Miami, Baltimore. You're going to need extra pieces or players to put into those spots. So somebody like that, I just have to get aggressive with and cut, even though you want to just picture that upside. And then when it comes to bidding, I don't want to get overly aggressive. So I was in on Christian Javier, but I knew he was going to end up going 300 plus for the most part. So
yeah,
I wanted to stay competitive, but I wasn't willing to get in a pissing contest or blow my load. So I was at like a $195, 205 range. And if I got him there, I would have felt fine with it. And I knew I wasn't going to get him, and I didn't get him anywhere. So I want to stay competitive. I ended up landing outside of Christian Javier in the main events. I ended up getting, for the higher bids, it was Yusei Kikuchi was the pitcher I ended up getting over Christian Javier. And I have more confidence in him. So I'm willing to get aggressive with or without the stash, but the stash definitely helps.
It just adds to your like machismo, like, oh, I got this. This is happening.
I mean, Kike Hernandez is already modeling himself after you.
That's right. So, that's right. Kike Hernandez, Garrett Richards, and there's one other person that doesn't normally have a mustache that's been rocking one. It's going to piss me off that I'll think about it at some point, but
just blurt it out.
Somebody else. Yeah, there's somebody else roaming around right now that's got a mustache I'm not used to.
Although the picture of Spore, that's where the whole discussion started. I can't talk, jeez, about the mustache was when Spore posted that picture of Garrett Richards and the squinty eyes. When you squint your eyes, you look. It's like totally 70s Western, like
it's called marijuana, Mike.
That's a whole nother discussion. You are in California. My wife brought me another beer, so thank you. She brought me two.
Hey, cheers!
She knows.
Cheers to Mrs. Kurland.
So I was out of beer as well, and my wife Brandy brought me this one. So I'm staying reloaded, and we're stocked, boys.
Goodness. And we have 18 more minutes, and we're not gonna get through this show because who cares?
Do we have to go?
Well, we don't have to. I try to do an hour, but if you guys want to stay longer, we'll stay and play and hang out. The more I stay, the more I'm drinking. All right.
That's all right.
Back to the call-ups. I'll stay as long as you guys want. Honestly, it's a party, man. It's a Thursday night. What else do we have to do? The call-ups. Joe Adell just came up. He missed tonight's game with quad tightness. I'm not sure how serious that is. We don't really have a lot of details. And then obviously Monty Harrison came up as well. They both have, to me, they were both very similar as far as profiles. The swing and misses there. Adell more power, Harrison more speed. I called Harrison a poor man's Adell, but then I was corrected very, very, very quickly on Twitter because he's more of a poor man's Luis Robert, to be honest. Similar, the more speed, less power, whatever. It doesn't matter. Same idea, different prospect. My point being, where are you guys at with expectations? Dokken, we'll start with you as far as expectations on these guys.
Yeah, Keon Broxton is a guy that comes to mind when I think about Monte Harrison.
Oh, that hurts.
Sorry, but well, he might be one of those guys that just never puts it together. It's super tantalizing power speed, but the hit tool has never really been there. We kind of heard some rumbles that maybe he was making some serious adjustments in the Arizona Fall League. I can't remember if that was 2 or 3 years ago now, and we're just now seeing him. But there's going to be a ton of swing and miss in his game. If he can overcome that and he's aggressive on the bases, I mean, he could be a boon to your team just because he gets on base once in a while and he swipes bags hard. But he's got some power to go with it. I would feel a lot better owning Adell, and the bids are obviously going to be much crazier on Adell given his pedigree. I definitely think that Adell is the better player long-term in particular. For this year, he's just so young, doesn't have a ton of experience with the upper minors, just getting his first taste of the majors now. So I kind of have reserved expectations with Adell, but I've also been proven kind of wrong with Luis Roberts so far because I thought that he would sort of – I mean, he has been striking out a lot. He has been striking out a lot, and the plate discipline isn't great. I don't think it will be for the rest of the year. But I watched him – I can't remember if the Twins opened against the White Sox or not. But so when I was watching that game, I mean, you can just tell, even when he's up with the big boys, he is a dude. He is going to be a superstar. So I feel like I've already been proven wrong, and he's been one of the best players in fantasy so far. And if he can do that, I could probably be a little bit more optimistic on Adell as well. So, I would say Adell this year. But, man, Monty Harrison, especially if I'm in a 15-teamer, I'm definitely giving him an ad because he's one of those guys who could pop, especially in a short sample. I mean, if he just happens to get a couple grounders or a couple fly balls that drop in, whatever, and he's stealing bases, I mean, he can be a truly electric player.
Yeah, and I want to make sure I clarify this. I don't know if it came off as I think Harrison is going to be similar to Adell, especially long term. I think Adell is by far the superior talent. That's why I want to emphasize the poor man's version, as in like the bargain brand. Like you
like
go to
like the homeless guy sitting in the alley version.
Yeah, he's the guy that he's the Walmart brand and Adell's Target. Like that's where we're at. Adele might even be like way above target, but obviously I'm not bougie. All target's like high end to me. I don't know.
So Adele's Gucci.
Yeah, there it is, Gucci.
Nathan, are you ready? Are you opening up another beer right now?
I'm on number 3, baby.
All
I'm
right.
on number 4.
I'm not a prospect dude, so I don't get too deep into the Joe Adele's, Luis Roberts and stuff, and that's actually it could be a weakness of my game. So we saw Luis Robert go unanimously in the 4th round of the NFBC 15-team main events. And I was like sitting behind my computer screen, like, that's another pick that I didn't want. And, kind of laughing, like, look at him. He's hitting 8th or 9th, and he fucking can't hit a breaking ball and doing all this, laughing dance in the living room and whatnot. And now I'm watching him, and like, I've been rostering him, and I only do 3-entry max and single entry tournaments on DraftKings. And like, now that Tim Anderson's out, I'm like all over Luis Robert, and he's been balling. And
he's leading off now.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of opening up my eyes. They did mention today, though, when Tim Anderson does go back, he's going to be the leadoff guy. So simmer expectations on that. Twitter's going to be in an uproar because he's been doing well in the leadoff spot. The White Sox fans will have years to come with Luis Robert as the leadoff hitter, but Tim Anderson will be back, and he's going to hit it leadoff. So Robert, I was wrong on. I don't have any shares, and that's a FOMO right now because he does look like the real deal. So Joe Adele would be the comp to that, like Dokken said, but the quad tightness is something interesting. But the knock on both the guys that I do have when we look at both as a shiny new toy and we want to see that upside, like, well, what if they do like when Juan Soto came up, or all these other guys when they first get called up and they win you a league simply. And the problem is Adele hits 7th when he is playing, and we're seeing Monty Harris hit 9th in the Mariners lineup, or I'm sorry, Marlins.
Hey! Don't you mix us up?
Hold on, though. I know. But if it was Barry Bonds in his prime and he was hitting 9th in this Miami Marlins lineup, nobody would be like, okay, like who?
He would somehow have fewer RBIs than home runs.
Yeah. So that's a huge issue for
damn it, Dokken.
Is he's hitting 9th in the Marlins lineup. He's still available though. So he's 53% owned in the TGFBI. So there's 47% of leagues that don't have him yet. So he is available there, and he's actually lower in the main event. So Monty Harrison's been added in 41% of leagues, and he's available in 59%. So he's somebody that is going to be available this Fab weekend. And I'm assuming it's going to be even higher in 12-team leagues, obviously. So it's going to be interesting to see where Monty Harrison does go. But Marlins ballpark hitting 9th. How are you going to profit? Where's the money being made?
It would have to be the stolen bases. It would have to.
I was going to say, and people are still rostering Victor Robles, which I don't get me wrong. Robles again, better player, sure, but Robles is in a similar situation. The offense, the Nationals isn't that great when you look at it. It's okay. You'd be surprised if I told you they won a World Series last year. You'd be like, "How?" But yeah, they did, and he's hitting 9th in that lineup. And you're rostering him for the speed at that point. But I got a shout out to John Fish. He came in saying, "What's up?" He's late. Then he also asked about J-Ram, Big Deer, and then wait, he signed what? Hold on, Big Deer, Fish. Whoa!
Oh, they're the same person.
Whoa,
they are.
He screwed up and signed into his what's it called account? The
burner account.
The burner account. That's what happened. Oh crap!
Hunting account.
We're gonna get another message coming up from like the chimpanzee 27 or something like.
Yeah,
roll through the animals.
Here, close enough. T-Ver in 161, no picture.
You know what? You just log off Twitter. Go away.
We need thoughts on Demaro Vargas. I can't say his name.
Demaro. Yeah, no, he already trolled me via DM. So go away. Shoo. He'll drop somewhere. He'll drop with the Marlins, and he'll bat leadoff for them next week. You just wait.
You're probably right. Although it's crazy because Vargas was actually hitting at times 2nd in the lineup. I don't understand what they were doing. He was actually because they have Cole Calhoun back there. Trust me, I'm a lineup snob now, so I know all about this stupid stuff. And he was batting 2nd. And I was like, who is this guy? I had to look him up. Like, who is this guy? And then, of course, he was with us completely. Most of us, I think the average person, there was always one in every draft that was willing to take him as far as Robert goes. I think we were all wrong on Robert, or not all, but majority of us were, as far as him being this good this fast, especially in a shortened season when there was so much room for error. And there still
I'll
is.
tell
He
you-
could go bad.
I'll tell you when I knew I was wrong. It was when Casey Chaw, who is an NFBC Hall of Famer, and he is a fucking beast. He's in one of my leagues, and he got his draft preference in KDS all lined up, and he got his number one choice order and draft preference and all that, and it was the 12th pick. And I was like, oh, that seems weird. And but then I saw who it was, and I was like, okay, he's gonna be up to something real weird. And he went Clevenger, he went Kershaw, and at first I was like, wow, Casey Chaw's kind of making some hiccups, and now we've seen Kershaw come just roaring. I won't start gushing about him, but Clevenger looked much better his second outing, and his first outing was decent. So, and then he had Luis Robert and JT Realmuto, and we've seen what JT Realmuto's done when he's able to play. Right, he's like best player per volume right now, if you on a per game basis, because the Phillies had missed a lot of games. So Casey Chaw, I think, is second or third or maybe even first now in that league. And now, after the first week, you're like, wow, the Kershaw pick was wrong. And he drafted Luis Robert, and then all of a sudden he's skyrocketing up. So that's when I realized, I was like, okay, Casey Chaw's in on Luis Robert. I probably should have been in on Luis Robert as well.
The rest of us were still saying Robert and like pronouncing his name wrong, and he's drafting, just winning thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and it's mind blowing because like it goes to show you that not always the best players are on Twitter. Not always the best players are analysts. Like,
totally.
There's people that do this. People that do this for a living that aren't vocal about it, and he's one of them. That probably retired. I don't know what he does. I'm sure he's probably retired. It's probably what he does for a living at this point. He's so successful, and of course.
It is still early. We can't get too crazy yet because
Absolutely.
Like if you look 61% contact rate so far, the dude is going to swing and miss a ton. So that betting average is going to come way down. That value, the hysteria is at a fever pitch right now. That will come down, but long term, I am definitely believing he's a superstar.
I was surprised. And what it is you start listening to a lot of the prospect guys. And again, Doc, and you can probably attest to this as somebody who probably hears it more than we do, but you talk to Bliss, you talk to a bunch of these guys that just were saying that he has a hard time seeing spin on pitches. He can hit it when he hits it, but he has a hard time seeing breaking pitches and identifying them and really putting the bat on the ball. And he hasn't seemed to have any. Don't get me wrong. Again, it's early. We know it can happen, but seeing him not struggle out the gate was kind of surprising. Whereas but at the same time, it's not. Like you said, we've seen rookies take off. So
you see these guys come up all the time too and rake, and then all of a sudden the book is on them, and he's getting spin on every pitch, and he's striking out all the time. So second time around the league is going to be a different story. He's got to make adjustments and everything, but so far it's promising.
No, 100%. And again, I got something right now. I'm eating crow, but I have to make sure we give Dirty Dokken a shout out. Yanti. He's awesome. The dude is just always here. He hates when we talk about him. He was one of the first. I think he was actually the first guest on this show.
He doesn't hate you here. He doesn't hate you talking about him.
No. He loves it. Oh, here it is. Look.
There we go.
I didn't read the whole thing, and I realized.
Wait, pull that back up.
Wait, is that Mike Kurland?
Yeah, he's giving you a plug. He's shouting you out.
Yeah, it was mind blowing. Okay, we're gonna talk about this because it was mind blowing. It still is. Like, dude, like I'm hosting a beer drinking show on a Thursday night. I'm a degenerate like the rest of us right now. And you know what? I just honestly, and I can't speak enough to because both of you guys, we never met. This is our first time actually talking, and it feels like we've known each other forever because we interact so often. This industry is amazing. I just really wanted to shout out the industry as a whole right now. It is absolutely amazing. The people you meet are truly awesome. And right now, it's just an example of that. We've come together. I know it's corny and all that, but it's a great time. And we're having a couple drinks, talking baseball, and this is what it's all about. The drinks, that's not what it's all about, but it works. It helps. Yeah.
Cheers now. Another cheers right now. Cheers to everybody listening and watching if you are.
We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, right? So the RotoWire podcast, you made it to the top of the roller coaster, and then now you're back at the bottom. Roller coasters fell off the tracks. Like Maddie and I are coming. We're like attendants at this park. We're just coming over to check, make sure your legs aren't broken, but you're going to talk to us anyway. So
So I only have like 8 or wait a minute, hold on. So I only have like 8 or 9 episodes.
I gotta ask. Sorry, is this like your old Twitter handle here?
Yeah, man. When I was
At the
first,
cold mailman.
yeah,
Why didn't
well,
you
because
keep that?
I know it's so good. I should go back.
Well, now you're committed. Now you're committed to your name.
It's so much better.
Everyone
But-
knows you as the mailman, though, so it's like I've considered changing mine, but now I'm kind of stuck with my name too because your name is boring. Like, not your name, but like our names are just being
Just using your name in general.
That sounded really rude, but you get my point. Like, having let me rephrase that. Having your name as a Twitter handle is boring. I can attest to that because I have my name as a Twitter handle. It sucks. I want to have something fun. And look, even Yancey's like, it's the greatest handle ever. You know, he's probably right.
Yeah, and I mean it's very descriptive of what I actually
how
am.
like when you go to like TJ Maxx or like a whatever store that has like picture frames, and you're out with your wife or significant other, your spouse or whatever, and they have these picture frames, and there's this random happy couple or a woman with a dog, or the fake photo that they put in there to like display like the 4x6 or the 5x7 or 8x10. That's what my name is, Matthew Davis. That's the fake name that they use. Like, to fucking such a phony, like so oatmeal. Like Mike, you're gonna like that.
Yeah,
it's
I
just
do
like
because
very like Matthew Davis. Like, oh, let's slap that on there. That's fucking perfect.
The unseasoned chicken of names.
Exactly. It's like, come on.
the unseasoned chicken. God, that sounds gross. And I'm a guy who likes to eat, and I wouldn't even touch unseasoned chicken. Like unless my wife cooked it.
My Twitter handle would have had to been like Matthew Davis 1920 something, because there's all of us out there. So
Mike Kurland was taken. I had to put an underscore. I'm using my mouse so you can see it. I'm using my mouse on the screen. You can't see that, but I'm underlining the underscore right now. I had to put one.
Someone had hit me up and was like, "Hey, there's a child molester named Matthew Davis in Fresno County," and I was like, "Oh, that's great. That's fucking awesome. Similar name, right?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I grew up like a county over. Like that ain't me." It's having a common name,
and now you're trying to be more like him with that stash. So
yeah, there we go. You're paying homage right now. You're paying homage to that Matthew Davis.
Now I look like a fucking guy.
I saw the mugshot. What's your favorite fake photo? Tweet at Yancey. Yancey wants you to tweet at him. What's your favorite fake photo?
He's shouting out the segues that I make at the top of, or would make at the top of every Nasty Cast episode, and Fantrax Dynasty for that matter. Segue. I was Segue king for a little bit. I fell off, but
it happens, man. Life gets in the way, dude.
Are you going to be? Is it too early to ask you, Nathan? Are you going to be doing another podcast? Because I'm eager and anxious to hear.
Can confirm. Yes. Yeah, I'm doing this right now. I mean, that's keeping me busy.
He says, right.
I know that you haven't really mentioned what you're going to be doing next, though, have you?
There is going to be a Roto Fanatic podcast, and I'm going to be on it. Okay. So I can confirm that right now. RIP Nasty Cast. The Nasty Cast is not dead, by the way. It shall continue on, even though I will not be on it, at least not every week. I can't rule out that I'll be on it at some point in the future, but yeah, stay subscribed, all you Nasty Cast faithful out there. There will be more content headed your way.
If I close my eyes, I can hear the voice, the soft, subtle voice of the show just washing over me. and that my eyes, I see this guy. I'm like, oh, and you look like you sound. Like, you know how people have a voice that just they don't look anything like they sound. You know what I'm talking about? Because I can't be alone on this. Where you hear someone talk, like all these years, I listen to all these podcasts. I'm trying to think of. I can't even think of an example now because I've gotten to know a lot of these people. But you see them for the first time, you're like, what the hell? I did not expect them to look like that. Like you look like it. You look and sound like Nathhan Dokken. Like I can say that. Like I don't know. That sounds weird. Maybe
that's a compliment.
Maybe the fourth beer.
I'll take it as a compliment.
When I hear myself, because I sometimes listen like for a quick couple minutes. I'm like,
never listen to yourself. Never
out of my podcast. I'm like, I sound like the dude that gets his ass fucking beat in the parking lot, and then his lunch money is taken. Like when I hear myself, that's what I think of. I'm like, dude, you get fucking beat up and your money taken from you. So it's not good to listen to yourself.
I mean,
never.
You kind of look like that. No, I'm kidding.
I would never.
I know my buddy Drafty Peter Christensen likes to put together boxing cards, so I could show up with a mustache and do a little bit of boxing.
Yancey talks about he thought Nathhan was an Asian gentleman. Goodness, that's where we're at the show. And Maddie sounds like a dude that sells fake weed. Totally. Oh my
Only
God.
good weed. Come on. Come on.
Nancy, the goat, has chimed in. Let's get back
I
to
only
the
buy
show.
weed, by the way, from people with mustaches like that. So
Yeah, only.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the show, shall we? Goodness, I love this. I'm having too much fun. We just went on like a 15-minute rant on absolutely nothing, and it's been
I might take
fantastic.
another shot of tequila, so
Oh
stay
goodness, go ahead.
Oh!
But in the
I don't
meantime,
do that. I don't drink that much, but let's talk some
yeah.
baseball.
In the meantime, you take your drink. I'll talk to Doc in here. We just talked. we talked about like 15 minutes ago about Adele and Harrison. Let's get back on track with the call-ups. Who do you expect to come up next?
So I mentioned Clark Schmidt being a guy that I like a lot. Spencer Howard is another guy who's getting a lot of buzz. I mean, I think
So is Matthew Davis.
we're all getting a lot of buzz right now.
You asked for
Yeah.
it. Fuck you guys.
I did it. I'm enjoying this thoroughly.
So it sounds like he might be up to start. I think Sunday is what I saw.
Ooh.
So I would, if Spencer Howard is still out there, I mean, he's got true ace potential, deep repertoire, solid command. So pitching for the Phillies, I think he can be great the rest of the way. You know, Gavin Lux, if he's up eventually, Maddie, I'll leave that one to you. You can touch on Gavin Lux if you want. Jared Kalenic is another one we could potentially see up. It's not like there's really any roadblocks in Seattle. I did like Jake Fraley, who unfortunately hasn't seen any time at the majors this year. I invested in him in the Nasty Cast podcast league, which wound up being a random 17 teams. And so I took a late stab on it. Yeah, don't ask. But so unfortunately, Fraley has not seen.
I forgot to unmute my mic. 17 teams. What the hell happened there?
Well, people get one to get in at the last second. Who am I to tell them no? So 17 is what we landed upon. But
Fish talks about Howard supposed to be going Sunday. It seems. I mean, he was supposed to go last week too. So hopefully, we have him in our main event. Actually, oh yeah. For those who don't know, Fish and I are co-managing a main event. It actually worked out very well. We rarely disagreed, so that was kind of fun. Which I expected a lot more disagreement, but we gave into each other. And honestly, our team is doing really solid to start off, which is getting my hopes up. We are third in our main event and 56 overall at this time, and that's without Kershaw and Howard. So we're hurting at pitching. So yeah, I'm getting my hopes up at this point. I'm totally like hopes are up. But yeah, and
keep on trucking, baby.
Yeah, so call-ups, Mr. Wood, if I can call you that.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm hoping that the next call-up is Mackenzie Gore. And I like that the Padres and AJ Preller, we know that he's in the hot seat, and he's in win now mode. And Mackenzie Gore is their next viable option. We saw Patino get called up. He got rocked yesterday. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. And the rotation, the top three, they're set. So Paddock, Lamet, Richards, they're going to be fine. And then Zach Davies, I know that he's boring, but his walk rate is so low that it's going to be hard pressed to get somebody out of the rotation that can kind of have that low walk rate. So Joey Lucchesi is the odd man out for me. If you ask, well, what's the path for Mackenzie Gore to get up? And it's Joey Lucchesi, and Joey Lucchesi is successful, or when he is successful, it's simply because of deception. It's not because of his control or command or the stuff. I should just say the stuff itself. It doesn't grade out very high, but he's hard to pick up. And so as a starter, it's very difficult for someone like him to go the second or third time through a lineup when it almost tends to look like a pitching machine after you see it a couple times, because the stuff that he provides isn't elite. So it's his deception that's making him successful when he is successful. So I could see Lucchesi being another Matt Strahm in that bullpen for the Padres. And if that does happen, or if an injury happens, which we've seen a ton of injuries, Mackenzie Gore is the next guy up. And I'm very, very eager to see Mackenzie Gore get some burn in that rotation, because the Padres are in win now mode and they look legit. So Mackenzie Gore would be the guy for me.
That's awesome. I really was listening, but I'm totally tweeting right now. Not like I'm.
You busted.
I am listening because I'm with you on Gore. No, I'm really, dude. ADD and drinking really works because I can actually focus on multiple things while drinking. But I'm with you on Gore. I just wonder. It's like Gore makes sense right now. Lux makes sense. Mize makes sense. Carlson, like, why are these guys not all up? What are these? I mean, I know the Cardinals have to wait at this point because of the whole being quarantined, but Why are these guys not up? There's no reason why. I mean, I looked it up. Taylor and Hernandez, as far as Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor, they're not performing that well to hold Lux back. I don't see. I mean, I know they're doing okay. They're not doing bad.
That's the issue with Lux is you have so many movable pieces, and Kike started off hot again, and now he's simmering down, and that's what he always does. He has a great spring training. He comes in opening day. Clubs
how he mustache.
Dude, yeah, or that, and now he came out with the mustache and looked great, and now I don't know what the fuck's happening with him, but Chris Taylor is now starting to pick it up. Chris Taylor was hot in the spring or summer camp 2.0 or whatever, and then he got off to a slow start, so we saw Kike, and then Kike got slow, and Chris Taylor's picking it up. So that's a carousel in itself, and then you have that's the problem with Gavin Lux. Let's say he does get called up, and I should have known better myself investing a 13th round pick. Like, I punched myself in the face, man. It's very frustrating because the team is so deep that they're one of those teams that you have X amount of players that are going to be stapled into that lineup every single day. And then you have the AJ Pollock.
Sorry.
Cheers. The AJ, you know what? Here, real quick, while I'm talking about the Dodgers, here's a shot of tequila Casamigos.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I got one more beer to open once I'm done here, and I'm already in too deep.
This show, Michael Simione, I miss you. I hope I can hang out with you next time on your own show. But
we're drinking in your honor.
The first two words are beer and bourbon. That's hops and liquor in my mind. So we're just living up to the name. So
baseball
Gavin,
is obviously third.
The problem I do have is, and I had these similar concerns actually with Max Muncy at the beginning of the year, and I'm still going to. I'm confident more now than ever. Corey Seager needs to be the second hitter in the Dodgers lineup. Okay, and now we're seeing that, and Max Muncy's kind of given you those waves that. Where did Max Muncy come from, and how is he doing what he's doing? And we saw his explosions and success and power and on base percentage and all of that. But he is a lefty hit. He is left-handed, and the Dodgers are an analytical team. And we see what they do with Jock Peterson. So why would they not be open to doing that with Max Muncy? So Jock Peterson is highly successful in facing right-handed pitchers. Now we're seeing him lead off. They've already mentioned now at the beginning of the season, we saw Muncy leading off with Betts in the 2-hole when it was a right-handed pitcher starting in the game. And now we're seeing Jock Peterson lead off. And Dave Roberts has already mentioned, and that's what the Dodgers did the last 2 or 3 years, was Jock Peterson led off against right-handed pitching. So I think that we might see that moving forward. If it's a right-handed started pitching, you might see Jock Peterson hitting first, and then you would see Mookie Betts second with, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager, etc. And that leaves Max Muncy out. So I know we were supposed to be talking about Gavin Lux, but it just goes to show you all the people that they have. And Lux is a lefty, and we do know that they are analytical, and he's not up right now because his bat is slow. So long story short, I'm sorry for going on a rant. If Gavin Lux, if and when he does get called up, because he will get called up, I highly project him hitting 8th or 9th, and sometimes he might sit against a left-handed starting pitcher. And in that case, I'm completely wrong, and I have to take a huge fucking L because I was too high on Gavin Lux, and he's not going to provide the even the fab value profit right now. If you're willing to piss your load on him, don't do it. And look at me, nice swing, bitch. I'm all about L. So it's just don't simmer your expectations this year on Gavin Lux. And we
need to give you more alcohol more often. And
that's such a sweet shirt, by the way.
Did you know the Dodgers have Terrence Gore, by the way? Like, I know you're a Dodgers fan.
No, he ran the bases a couple times, and then he's fast.
Well, I looked it up because Yancey pointed out Gore, bro. Terrence Gore sucks, and you're right. A career 0 home runs. The guy has played in 102 games, but only has 77 career plate appearances with 32 runs, 1 RBI, 0 home runs, but 40 stolen bags. He has a career 224, 325, 284 triple slash. That is a 284 slug. Okay, this guy, and he's in the major leagues.
Specialist.
He's in the major leagues pinch running for your Dodgers.
If we had time to pull up like career statistics of anybody that had X amount of plate appearances, he probably has one of the weirdest ones out of the hundreds of years that we've had baseball. It's it's pretty impressive. Good or bad, it's impressive.
Better slugger, Bartolo Colon or Terrence Gore?
Bartolo has more career home runs.
Right.
Bartolo it is. Bartolo! Cheers to Bartolo!
You're
I'll
so
drink to
right.
Bartolo.
God, this show is off the rails and I love it. Mike, this is what happens when you don't
Hey,
show up, buddy.
You know what? And I'm sorry. I apologize to people. I know that I'm going on a long rant on sometimes when I'm talking about somebody,
Who
but we are
cares?
drinking. I
Have a
hope
good
that
time.
everybody is having a buzz with us. If not, you're having a soda or a tea or your favorite milkshake or whatever it is if you don't have
Or
alcohol,
you-
because some people don't drink alcohol, and that's fucking cool too, because you can party with us as well. But this is
Yeah,
fun, Mike.
I mean,
I'm so stoked that you had us on to just have a good time. Really,
Well,
like,
that's the thing.
great.
We need this. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
even
we
if
need
it is
this.
good fantasy baseball content, like,
But it
cheers.
is. The problem is people need to learn. What I need to do is put timestamps for people need to fast forward. Fast forward this 15 minutes. Fast forward this 5 minutes. Fast forward this it's like because we have some. Honestly, you guys are. I brought you on not because I knew it'd be not just because I knew it'd be a good time. Because this is I don't know about you guys, but I'm really enjoying myself. It's a lot of fun. But you guys really do know your stuff. You guys really do know fantasy baseball. You guys are people that, especially you, Doc, and you've been somebody I've listened to for years. Like you're a guy that,
Cool, man.
I mean, I don't know if you want this is weird, but yeah, he's a guy who's been around for a while. I've looked up to him. I've listened to him. I'm like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I told you a while ago, I've always wanted you on the podcast. Well, no better way to have you on than to do this. You know, like you are a party guy. At least you come off as like somebody that wants to get. At least you come off as somebody who wants to have a good time.
That's
Maddie,
accurate.
you and I have talked a lot. We have a lot of nice things to say about each other. But I knew you were about this life, and I wanted to make sure you came on.
I don't know if that's a good thing, but I'm all about this life.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. But like you said, there's nothing wrong with not drinking. Like one of the best guys in this industry, Justin Mason, doesn't drink, but he fits. But he fits this show perfectly. Like his vibe, his energy. He's just such a good dude.
Have you had him on?
Not yet. I've had a hard,
especially because the irony would be to have Mason onto a beer, bourbon, and baseball show.
And he doesn't drink.
He has been a counselor. He has gone through the ups and downs.
Yeah,
totally bring him on. We all know he's fucking on. Look at that.
Yeah,
dude. Hold on.
Oh my!
I gotta have that.
I can't get past the head. It's the beer, guys. It's the beer.
Oh,
all right,
good.
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, can't get past the head. All right, just the tip. Traded McCullers and Mondesi for Simione in a points league.
And so when somebody types that in, Mike, I'm sorry for asking for the McCullers question. Are they able to answer another question right away via chat if we have one?
There's a delay.
Okay,
there's a little bit of delay, so we can ask because we want to know more about depth of league.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a points league though, so in a points league, I'm all about getting rid of Mondesi, but Simione hasn't looked good at all. Yeah.
Right.
I think and adding a pitcher, we all know
McCullers has been a liability thus far as well,
yeah, but the thing is, those pitchers usually score the most points in a points league. So when you trade McCullers and Mondesi for Simione, I wish he would have worded Simi win. Like that wordplay was right there. But Simione, I honestly I'd rather have the McCullers side a little bit only because of the starting pitcher, because the starting pitcher aspect gives it a boost. Because Mondesi's strikeouts, he's terrible. His plate discipline is so trash that he's really bad in points leagues. But Simione has not looked good. I think he'll bounce back, but I feel like you gave a little too much on this one.
Yeah, I would skew towards the McCullers side. I mean, Mondesi in a points league versus Roto, maybe the biggest difference in fantasy baseball.
Oh yeah,
because those stolen bases are like 1 point usually in points leagues, like they're almost nothing, and his plate discipline is just atrocious. So yeah, he's just a stiff. Like he could almost be on your waiver wire. You know, if he's not up there scoring a ton of runs at the top of the lineup, which he's not. I mean, he's like worthless. And so I was actually digging into McCullers a little bit because I really liked him. Especially in a short season, as a guy who could pitch like an ace, I thought, in a 60-game season, because he was going to face workload restrictions coming into a full season. But he has been just absolute garbage. And it was weird. I was looking up his numbers earlier, and his slider actually is just getting crushed. So I actually wonder if he's not tipping that pitch or something is just askew there. And maybe, someone in the Astros front office is going to get a hold of that and turn him around. I know he's been throwing his changeup a lot more too. which is good if you want to turn over a lineup a third time. But in this short season, when you've got a ton of relievers and stuff, like just go to your curveball, man. Throw them on your fastball. Who cares? So I think that I think and I hope that McCullers, because I'm pretty invested in McCullers as well. So full disclosure there. I am rooting for McCullers, but I do think that he will turn it around. So I would rather have that side.
That's where I'm at. And we had somebody, I feel like this is a troll. He has Wander Javier in his profile picture. Dusty Colorado.
Colorado.
Dude, if you've ever checked this, I've actually seen his profile before. He legitimately is like the biggest fan of Wander Javier ever. And I don't know thoughts on Wander Javier.
I think that
his upside.
Number one Twins prospect. Wander Javier. His upside is probably 70, 400 batting average, and he's 75th president of the United States, living to the age of 300.
Oh man, you heard it here first.
If that's the case, I'm going to end up staying in America. But
you heard it here first. Wander Javier, the 75th president of the United States. You got a big thank you from Dusty Colorado.
Hey Dokken, how's the mail system in Vancouver? Do you know?
Vancouver. Well, let's find out, my friend. Let's go up there and check it out.
That's what I'm looking. That's what I'm looking at. Like in the next 5 years, I'm thinking I sell the 4 acres on the central coast of California and I head up to Vancouver.
For those who might not know or might not have ever been around Twitter and heard anybody make fun of these guys, give them a hard time about being mailmen, both of these gentlemen are postal service workers. They are essential workers, and we are regular mail carriers.
Is what we are called, right?
I'm Nate? Nobody. I am Mike Kurland, host of this podcast.
You're fucking way cooler than us, dude.
No, I'm not, dude. Have you seen me? I have the body of a whale. Like
I don't give a shit.
That allows you to hurl people over your shoulder and carry them from a burning building.
Something like that.
So right out of high school, my first right when you're out of high school, right? You try and figure out what you're gonna be. That's whatever they want to implant into you. And for me, I wanted to be a firefighter, and I went to a fire academy and great with books and literature and speaking. And then we had to do the gurney rides, and I fucking tapped out. The first I arrived to was a mother and a son, and the son was an early teenager, maybe 12, 13, 14 years old. And he ended up hitting his head on his forehead on the windshield, and his head was split. And I know that it's very minor. It was just like a split forehead, which whatever. I was like, nope, I'm dropping out and I'm done. So I ended up going to business college and went to a university and did all the skate school and was a business major and whatnot. But I wanted to be a firefighter. So props and shout out to you and anybody that can stomach the stuff, because people think that firefighters just put out fires, but they don't. They're also these days. EMT side, and it's brutal, man. And
some places still have them separated. Some places still have them separated. I work for one that does both, so I'm actually a paramedic firefighter, so I do a lot of ambulance stuff. And yeah, it gets interesting. It's weird. I have stories I can tell you guys off. I don't want to bog this pod.
Right? Yeah.
It's already bogged down enough, but there's a bunch of stories I can tell you guys just for some of the craziest things. And the stuff that bothers me isn't even the blood, the gore. It's the way some of these people live, dude. That's anyway. That's a whole nother. You're gonna get me down another rant. Let's get to. He was explaining that it's a 12-team league. Was tired of Mondesi's negative points, McCullers negatives as well. I totally get it. And then he was about to drop both as nobody was interested. So, and he has Dansby. So there's a little context. Because again, it's a shallower league, it's a points format, so I'm guessing 3 outfield, no middle infield, no corner. This trade makes a little more sense. You're taking a shot on the upside. Simione being the better player in points, I get that. I still rather hold on to McCullers if I could have. But yeah, but I'm okay. I'm okay with all that context and knowing how a points league usually lays out as far as format. I'm okay with it. I still slightly lean towards McCullers, but Simione still ultimately offers probably the most upside in this format outside of McCullers. So, because Mondesi really is, like you said, Dokken, man, Mondesi is legitimately a top 2-round, 3-round pick in Roto, and he's outside the top 100 easily in points. So, couldn't agree with you more. And of course,
that's also a quick learning lesson, though. So we saw in the main event, Mike. I know that you were in a main event with John Fish. We saw Mondesi go in the early third, late second, early third, late third, right? So he was not even going in the fourth round whatsoever. And we saw Simione go much later than that because the shortstop pool was so deep. We saw, Marcus Simione, and then the guy that I was all about, and I'm still all about, is Jorge Polanco. Like, could you imagine right now? And Jorge Polanco was going in the main event, 8th round, 9th round, 10th round, 11th round, 12th round sometimes. So it was a very wide range of outcomes. But it's like, guys, you really need to look into team context, where they're batting in the lineup. And this stuff sounds so simple and stupid, but that's what you're tweeting out every day, Mike. As you're tweeting right now, I caught you. It's just the lineup context and like looking into some of those things. And it's why, okay, if we, before we started this season, if we went, hey, Jorge Polanco's the shortstop hitting second and third for the Minnesota Twins. Hello. Why is he going so late? He was going so fucking late this year. And it just makes no sense. So it's a learning lesson that you have to take. And the team context with Marcus Simione is much better than Alberto Mondesi. Now we're seeing him hit lower in the lineup, and it's a Royals lineup. And Simione is still going to be hitting in the heart of the thick of the A's lineup. So McCullers might not pay off, and maybe he did make the right move. So
yeah, I think I'm okay with it.
Because I think that he might have found the consistency that he needs this year, and we don't know the starting pitching that he didn't provide that for us. So it's tough looking at it on the outside. Like, wow, Mondesi was going in the third, McCullers was going in the ninth in a main event round in the drafts, and then you're just trading that away for a Marcus Simione. But if consistency is key for him right now, and he does have the starting pitching depth, then maybe he did make the right move. So.
Have any of you? The reason why I've been on Twitter, and again, I'm actually listening. I just got to ask I got a couple questions on Twitter, and I don't know if they're watching the show or not. So I'm going to answer them or throw them to you guys anyway. Do you guys have either of you looked into Dylan Moore at all? Because he was a guy I mentioned dropping for Edwin and Paxton. I kind of was just chasing. I honestly was just chasing. I do a bunch of deep dives, player dives. I have no problem doing that. I haven't done it yet on him. But I'm more or less just chasing the hot hand. I mean, tonight he didn't do great, but he got a stolen base. He's already more valuable to me than Edwin at this point. He got a stolen base. And one stolen base is more than Edwin's going to get all year. So, but I guess in all seriousness, is he more like, is he a guy that you've had a chance to look into or not really yet? Because I haven't been there yet. And are you kind of just, would you just kind of ride the hot hand at this point? Anybody, I should Dokken go for it.
I mean, you can ride the hot hand if you want. Like, if you're picking up Donovan Solano, good luck with that, and you're Dylan Moore. I mean, you can ride it while it's hot, but I don't see it, lasting long. You're 28-year-old journeyman type. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't see much there really.
No, I hear you. I guess I haven't looked into it much at all. I saw some interesting things last year. I remember somebody pointed them out to me as someone to watch, like in a deep league. And so I looked into them last year and haven't looked at them since. This was just like, hey, I see the Mariners like to let their guys run the bases. And Edwin sucks right now. So I'm going to chase steals. And that's exactly what happened. I got a stolen base today. Like I told you, it's already paid off. So, but in all seriousness, I wasn't sure if either of you, I doubt anybody really looked into him. He could be a guy we see actually getting some bids or probably already owned in a lot of leagues because of the playing time. And he's batting second right now. Consistently batting second. He took over where JP Crawford was batting second. Shed Long was leading off. Crawford has moved up to lead off, and we're looking at Shed Long moving down and Moore moving to second. And yeah, here we are. Like, look, like Moore's has 3 steals now. Exactly. That alone will carry his value in this year's redraft because the Mariners are letting their guys run. Even Kyle Lewis, who has the speed but never has ran, is being given a green light. Like, and Kyle Lewis is the guy I stand over, so we all know. And of course, Yancey mentioned JB Crawford, Shed Long, Kyle Lewis, saddles lit. Yeah, hold on. I can't find my shirt right now.
But... soapbox.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. Yeah.
Here it is.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know if you know. I dropped it. Whatever. I don't know if you know the story, but I decided to become a Mariners fan.
Show us the back tattoo like this. Yeah.
Back tat. Yeah. Just just Lewis. Big name in bold letters like a jersey, but I got it tatted. No, it's because those guys were super like cheap in drafts, and I started getting into them late. And Fish was like him and I'm like, hey, I really like these guys coming in. And I think I actually mentioned, you actually gave me a shout out on your pod, Matt, about your can I call you Matt or is it Matty? I meant to ask that.
You want. I prefer, so if you call me my normal name, I prefer Matthew over Matt. And then a lot of people call me Matty Wood, and that's So people like Maddie and then space it Wood, and I think that's like an iPhone error, just simply because like Maddie Wood doesn't come out correctly. And that's
Yeah.
it. I started getting called this because people just called me Maddie growing up, right? Matthew, Maddie. And then Manny Ramirez was traded from the Boston Red Sox to the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had one of the hottest second halves of all time. Dodgers went to the playoffs, went to the NLCS, etc. He catapulted them to where they're at, in those years, a decade ago. And so they named the left field Manny Wood. And Maddie and Manny were kind of similar or correlated. So people just picked it up and grabbed Maddie and went to Maddie Wood. So that's why it's Maddie Wood. It's similar to Manny. It's not two fucking names. My last name isn't Wood. It's like Hollywood, guys. Like Hollywood, Manny Wood, Maddie Wood, whatever.
It's the mustache. It speaks for you. It's your mustache's alter ego.
I think it's the autocorrect on iPhone that sometimes fucks it up, but some people get confused with it. No, my name is Matthew Davis, like we mentioned earlier, and that's just the serial killer boring name that you would use for a 5x7 photo op. But no, it's just basically baked off of Manny Wood when Manny Ramirez was a Dodger.
Gotcha. And Yancey wants to know the origin story. Now we got that. Explain the underscores.
I hate the fucking underscores. Funny story, real quick. So I found the guy that is at Matty Wood with no underscores. His name is Matthew Wood, and he's a professor or he's a professor in like the UK. And I emailed him, and I got his email address, and I offered to like compensate him for it. And no dice.
Wow.
So he won't give it up, huh?
Fucking story too. So
he won't give it up, huh?
Cheers to that guy. And I was like, I'll fucking pay you, man. Just give me. You can have the underscores. Like it's the same shit. Just give me the name. And he's like, nah, I can't do it. So I'm stuck.
Oh, the owner of @Yancey has been trolling or hate trolling me for years for the handle Yancey, and that's fantastic. Oh my goodness. Oh geez, I love it. Yeah, I wish it's funny because I think the guy with my name doesn't even. I think he still has an egg as a picture. Like, yeah, like I just wanted my real name. By this point, it's like I said, I feel like I'm committed to my name at this point. It's like I don't mind my name, but it feels boring. It is what it is, though. I wish I had a cool story, a cool name.
So you can still change yours, and you have a name that I think is kind of known in the industry. Is people call you Sleepy K, right?
I consider that they do, and that's actually a shout out to Live Shits because I think he said it. He called me. Yeah. He gave it to me, and I think it's because it was based off of a 90s rap name in his head. Like he thought of a 90s rapper, and he's like Sleepy K. Because dude, I fell asleep on a podcast, Doc, and I don't even heard about this one. I fell asleep while podcasting.
So the first time I ever saw you on a live stream, and I think that you'll recall this in the back of your head when you hear it. We all did like the big like opening TGFBI stream, and we all had like a 15-30 minute segment or whatever. And Mason had it all on in strategical order for like fucking 4 or 5 hours, dude. He just kept streaming us all. And I didn't get to tune in as a viewer to every single show, but I tuned in when you were on the show and you were laying on the couch. And I went in the chat and I was like, holy shit, Mike looks like he smokes more weed than I do. And you're like, well, his name is Sleepy K. And I know that they repeated, I think it was Walter McMichael that repeated it to you. They're like, well, Matthew Davis just said that you look like you smoke more weed than he does. And we're not sure if that's really possible. So I think Sleepy K, like all under caps, SLEEPY, and then a capital K or something like that would be unique. It would help you get away from your full name. So that would be the name I would give you.
I don't know if you saw because I told you I committed to being a Mariners fan this year, and I got my shirt made.
Oh, nice.
Why aren't your NFBC team should be Sleepy K, your Twitter handle. You got to own the brand, dude. You got to take over.
Curling with elite, don't give. Yeah, Yancey, you have no idea, dude. Like I'm pretty refined on my podcast because I try to make it. But to be honest, like I'll be full. I've always been very honest and upfront. I'm pretty candid. I try to be professional and try to have a little bit of fun, but at the same time, I try to be informative and just keep the podcast as strictly as that. And then Yancey asks, "How did we get here?" And then he answers it. Marty Tallman answers it. Alcohol, my friend.
There it is. Yep.
I'm on beer 5, and my tolerance has gone up since starting the show. like once a week. But yeah, it's
the most
alcohol's a hell of a drug.
I'm literally not bullshitting you guys. This is the most alcohol I've drank in
Me too.
6 months.
Wow.
You realize we haven't talked baseball in about half an hour. You take another shot.
This is a fucking amateur hour.
I gotta ask you guys. So let's go with hot starts. Let's get back on. Jeez, I love this show. My problem is I'm having too much fun because we're talking baseball, but we're talking origin stories. Oh my, you better kill that before the
Might
show's
as well
over.
finish it. Yeah, there you go.
Well, and if honestly, and Dokken, don't feel bad if you have to dip out of here. Totally get it. This is going beyond the hour.
I'm good.
But if
I
you're
mean,
good,
this is the end of my beer, which is sad.
Can I ask you, Nate? So real quick, brother, you mentioned us in our little group chat earlier that you had a busy day. And when we got on the stream earlier, I was talking to Mike and I told him, I guarantee he was delivering mail today. Were you?
I was actually doing some training. It's a new thing that I'm doing. And so,
okay.
So
was it your long weekend or did you have AL?
No, I mean, I was training on the job. Like,
you're like an OJI. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to get weird like that and start going down that road. Okay, so you're OJI today. So if anybody doesn't know, Nathhan had what's called a CCA come into the office that had to go to a mail carrier academy, and he's training people and just basically trying to set a good example. So yeah, he couldn't check us.
Good example. Yeah, I haven't set one of those in years.
This is how you deliver mail. That's awesome.
I have 3 kids that I haven't.
you.
I have 3 kids. My oldest one's 11. I haven't set a good example in 12 years. Just to put that perspective. I'm kidding. I'm actually not a bad dad. I swear I love my kids. You wouldn't guess it. You wouldn't guess about how much I'm on Twitter and doing stuff like this. But my kids love me. I love them. I promise. I'm actually really lucky. But okay, enough of that. Baseball. Let's do this. Hot starts.
Yeah, let's get into the hot stuff. Yeah, that's
there's
the fun
so
part.
many. There's so many. But you know what? I'm gonna start. I didn't even honestly. I won't even lie to you at this point. I forgot what I prepped, so I'm gonna pull it up right here. I don't care because I'm gonna take a victory lap here. And here's the thing. I don't know about you guys with victory laps. I'm all about them, but I'm also, as long as you're willing to take your L's, and I'm all about taking my losses. But we're gonna start with a hot start that I'm totally buying into. And it's Aaron freaking Savale. 2 games. Somehow he has a loss in those 2 games, but the guy's just looking electric. And right now he's a 3.75 ERA, FIP, XFIP, and Sierra. Well, Sierra's not. Oh no, I lied. Sierra is good. I was looking at last year's. Everything's showing that he's actually been unlucky. And the dude he changed up his pitch mix. I said it all offseason. That's all he had to do to kind of take that next step, and he's done it. And he's done it while keeping the control in check with a walks per 9 of 0.75. So the K minus walk rate is 35.4. Will that sustain? Hell no. But we're seeing growth in the profile. We're seeing a tangible change to back it up. I am all about Aaron Savale, and I think he's a guy that I'm willing to not only do I have a lot of shares, but I am buying high on Aaron Savale. Do you guys have any thoughts on Aaron Savale this year? I don't care.
I agree. He was going initially in the first week of the NFBC main event. He was going in the 15th round. And then there was that spring report that came out from one of the beat writers or a couple of the beat writers in Cleveland that he was going like 6+ innings and 90+, 100+ pitches. And people were insecure about the pitch volume initially in 2020, and they still should be. But we saw that, and we already knew that Carrasco and the other 2 in Clevenger and Bieber were going to be stretched out. So we were like kind of putting Savale as that similar egg in that Cleveland basket, which is a successful basket. And so we saw him get jumped up to the 14th and 13th round. And it's one of my flaws in drafting is I use ADP as a tool, and it's not something that I take as gospel. But in my NFBC main event drafts, I look at that as a roadmap. And so I saw that Savale was going from the 15th to the 14th to the 13th, and that kind of just pushes me out. And sometimes it's a flaw in my draft prep because he can still provide value where he's going, even if he's getting pushed up a couple rounds. So I'm buying in on him. I'm also buying in on Zach Plesac if we want to throw him in on that same thing. They're all drinking the same water. The fucked up part, though, that I will throw out about the Cleveland Indians is we can find success in all of those starters, but what the fuck is going on in the bullpen? Hello, McFly. Like, come on. Okay, yeah, Whitgren's looked all right, and Karinchak's the fucking beast, but we're just gonna keep rolling out that the crippled old Brad Hand, like the velo's down. Like he was only successful for the X amount of years because he went from starter to reliever, and the velo goes back up, and the breaking balls look good and whatnot. But like he doesn't look good. Sure, he's gotten out of the last 2 outings with 2 saves, but it's gonna be Karinchak, right? I mean, what do we? All the starters
later, yeah.
Yeah, it's come on. So
Dude,
I'm
he mentioned someone mentioned the Chatwood. Where is it? Oh, Yancey. Haven't checked tonight's box scores, but I'm taking my victory lap on Tyler Chatwood. Well, you shouldn't do that yet with Chatwood giving up 8 earned runs in 2.1 innings, Yancey.
Jesus.
But honestly, if you have him for the first 2 starts tonight, obviously he's a 5 steps back, but I don't know. I mean, is he really a drop? Would you guys drop him? I know I'm kind of going on a tangent again. Would you guys drop Tyler Chatwood after this bad outing, or kind of wait to see what's going on?
No. So, Nathan,
no.
I know you haven't gone. I can go deep on Tyler Chatwood. I'm not dropping him, but Dokken, you go first.
I mean, for me, he's more of a streamer. I don't have a ton of confidence in him. I'm still like, using mouthwash after his 8 walks per 9 or whatever it was a couple years ago. So like that's still all I envision when you say the words Tyler Chatwood.
No walks tonight.
I know he's made a lot of adjustments this year too. So I credit him for sure. And he was one of the big risers in my starting pitcher barometer last week. But at the same time, I think he's more of a streamer. I'm not necessarily holding him in really any format.
I'm with you. And the Marlins won again tonight. Let's go. Let's play Baltimore every day. I'm happy.
Look at that. Season ends now. Marlins.
Do they not have
the World
They have like the best winning record, right? Like
I think they are up there now at this point.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I have so much false hope for this team. Oh, geez. Anyways, back to hot starts.
I've got a couple guys. Yeah, so some hot starts that I would buy into. The guys that I picked, so one of them's kind of like a high round pick, and I'm pissed off at myself because I didn't get any in the NFBC main event, and that's Nick Castellanos. And I'm buying into everything that he's doing. He's crushing the ball. He's got like 10 runs, 13 RBI, 6 home runs, 300 plus batting average. The only knock on him, I know that people are like, he's the next Christian Yelich. Well, the false part of that is he's not going to get you the stolen bases. When we saw Christian Yelich go from Miami to Milwaukee, we saw everything break out, from the line drive rate to the home run per fly ball rate and everything in between. So we're seeing that with Nick Castellanos. And the other thing that I do like about him, which I was kind of weary about initially, was like, well, he's on a new team context. And that kind of steers me away a little bit. But he's already played with the Cubs in the NL Central. He already played with the Tigers in the NL Central. And those are the only divisions that he's seeing. And we're noticing already right away that his talent and his pedigree and what he can do in the box is just simply fucking elite. Like he's what we want. He's what we want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be. Like that's like the sexy side. Like what Nick Castellanos is doing right now is like, wow, that's like the sexy Vladimir Guerrero Jr., right? No stolen bases, but just like utterly fucking hitting every single ball hard. And it's
so
hitting
basically he's JD Martinez because the guy can't play defense and he hits the ball really hard.
That too. And that's even a better like that's like the comp you would give. Exactly. That's like the comp you'd give, like, well, he's doing this, right? And like Vladimir is like the hope is what you want Nick Castellanos or the JD Martinez. He's like got that skill set, but he hasn't put it together yet. So he's somebody I'm buying in. And then the pitcher that I want to give, I'm actually kind of excited about. And the fucked up part is I don't own any shares whatsoever of. It's Daniel Hudson. The closer role has been a shit show this year. Let me tell you, Harris is on the DL or IL. And Doolittle's velo's down. He doesn't look motivated. He's been getting hit. Hudson has come out and he's been romping. His velo's up. He looks phenomenal. I know it's early and we talk about small sample sizes and like video game numbers, but his like strikeout rate's above 40%. His swinging strikeout rate's above 15%. And so the Nationals are going to be competitive. I love Daniel Hudson as a stable closer, which is really weird to say in 2020. So Nick Castellanos, which is obvious, but Daniel Hudson is like that, like shoe-in closer for me this year.
Yeah,
And
I like Danielson. Either do I. And it's funny because I was in on him, but people kept talking me out of him. Like, it's one of the few players where I was like, okay, you're probably right. Doolittle will factor more. And I'm not sure that's going to be the case. But going back to Castellanos, he actually had a little swing change, which is one of the few guys I noticed had one. And he didn't need one. The hit tool is there. But he's made it to where he's only hitting 26.7% ground balls, which is absurdly low for most hitters. And then the fact that that's 10% better, actually more than 10% better than his actual ground ball rate in any season, that means it's actually all going in the air, but the fly balls have actually decreased. It's all gone towards line drives. And he's putting the ball, he was pulling it, but late, it's kind of, it depends on the game. We're still early in the season. It's kind of regulated towards pull/straight. But regardless, with that home park, putting the ball in the air more equals home runs, equals extra base hits. And I'm all about Castellanos. That's why the JD Martinez comp came, because like I said, down to the defense, it was absolutely fine. And Maddie, go for it, buddy. No, but
awesome. Okay, no, I'm gonna peace out for like 1 minute and use the restroom real quick. Please keep going, guys. I have to go.
That's what happens when you drink beer on a podcast for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, we will. This was supposed to end 40 minutes ago. So, dude, that's why I said this is fine. Like,
it's so much fun.
Well, the thing is, though, is I say an hour, but if we're having a good time and everyone wants to keep going, we're gonna keep talking because that's what we do. What about you, man? Where are you at with some hot starters, and what are you buying? Are you buying in, selling some? Where are you at?
Yeah, so I mean, Luis Robert is one that immediately comes to mind. That there's a hot starter that I'm mostly buying. Like I said, there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment going on as pitchers start to throw more spin, and I think the batting average is going to come way down. The strikeout rate's going to go up, but as aggressive as he has been on the bases early on, I think he is going to return a profit still on his ADP, which unfortunately was too high for me heading into the season. Trent Grisham, we got to shout out how he is just studding out in San Diego right now. I mean, he is just looking like a beast, super judicious at the plate, making a ton of contact too, a lot of loud contact. I think he is going to be a dude, so I would be buying high on him. And then a guy who I am heavily invested in it, and actually a guy who's working out, unlike someone like Lance McCullers, is Giovanni Urshela in New York. We just saw Miguel Andujar get optioned. He was the hot thing, obviously, a couple years ago. Had, I believe it was Tommy John surgery, and just because he is such a poor defender, he just doesn't have anywhere to play on a team with a bunch of people who should already be DHing. So Urshela's plus defense is really helping him out there. And he's a guy who made a ton of adjustments last year. That's carrying over into this year positively for fantasy. A couple of guys who are off to hot starts that I'm selling. I don't mean to. I mean, this might hurt. Kyle Lewis. Sorry. I'm not buying it right now. He's hitting everything into the ground. He's striking out a ton, a lot of swing and miss in that game. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, I've been rooting for Kyle Lewis for a long time. I'm a big Kyle Lewis fan, okay? He's gone through so many injuries after having such a high pedigree. I'm all about it, but this is not sustainable. I would be selling immediately if I had Kyle Lewis after this hot start.
Real quick, Mike. So I didn't get a touch on the sell candidates for me that have gotten off to hot starts, and it pains me to say that the hitter person that I selected was Kyle Lewis as well, Mike.
Honestly, I looked into him more. When I first looked into him, it was okay with the launch angle. It's down to 1.1 degrees. It went from his ground ball rate improving to pretty much breaking even the last year. But what I like to see is that he's still hitting more balls up the middle. Maybe if defenses shift on him, we might see an issue. But ultimately, it's the line drives. All those line drives and the willingness to go to all parts of the field. I think the batting average and BABIP can sustain a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to have like a 700 BABIP or wherever it is right now.
It's sustaining itself right now, and it's a short season, so
that's what I'm saying. I expect regression. Regression is going to happen, but I do think that maybe the power I was expecting won't come, and maybe he'll give a little more batting average floor. And if he could sprinkle in a few more steals, we saw him steal one. Maybe he'll sprinkle in a few more steals and show some sneaky value. I'm all about selling high, but it's selling high at the right price. My problem is I don't think you're going to get what he's been worth to your teams right now. So he's a guy that you might be better off holding and just riding out. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at with him. And I'm trust me, I'm not that bullish. I know he's a sell high in redraft. 100% agree. You have to do what you got to do. But if you can't get what he's worth right now, ride it. And once he starts sucking, or if he goes through a cold streak, drop him. period. And I put the hats on because like, yeah, it is what it is. There. Oh, shit.
No, you bring up a great point. If you can sell him, he's a fantastic sell opportunity, and I'm not in many of my home leagues and like trade leagues anymore because I try and center myself on NFBC format where there is no trades. But
I enjoy
if
no
there
trade.
are, but if you are in a league and you have your friends league, your home leagues, or whatever it may be, and you're having fun with your buddies, dude, Kyle Lewis is like the total ultimate. Like you sell that guy, you flip that fucking stock that's at the ultimate sell high, and you pick up somebody that's underperforming. I think that Mike was going to talk about people that are underperforming that may, pick themselves back up later. But if you're able to sell someone like Kyle Lewis and pick up someone that's underperforming, you can find some profit later on because you've already banked those stats. You've already gotten his 385 batting average and 3 home runs and the X amount of runs and RBIs. So I if it's not a keeper league or a dynasty league, which that's not my forte anyways, but that's what I would look to do is flip them.
And you mentioned it, and we're gonna get quick thoughts because honestly we've been doing this really long. So I appreciate.
Sorry, I saw that. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Sorry. Well, yeah. Anyway, nobody knows why we're laughing.
I've got to report a podcast after this, and it's our first time having a special guest, and it's Toby Batflip Crazy. So.
But at least
Toby's awesome. He's sober though, most of the time. Even when we hung out for barf in San Francisco in the city, I messaged him before we showed up and met each other. I was like, "Hey, are you gonna drink with me? Are you gonna booze it up?" He's like, "Well, I'm going home." Like, no. And the dude didn't. He was fucking stone cold sober and put in his work. And trust me, it was good work. So it's I gotta hang out with him.
I belong on the West Coast because guys like Toby, Bubba, you, I've gotten great along with great Mason, fantastic group of guys. Your little group there for Barf is awesome, and it's really just a cool group. I would love to be able to just even be a fly on the wall at these places. Too bad I live literally across the country. I'm in Florida.
Fly in.
I live in North Dakota. You all can suck it. There is nothing.
Well, fuck
here.
you. In February, that gives you a better excuse, Dokken. In February, you take some Carrier AL and you come out to San Francisco. And you hang out when it's 75, sunny, with a little bit of overcast in the mornings in the 50s.
Okay,
and
that's enough. Maddie, reel it in. Reel it in.
Rub it in.
California,
Let's be honest. Well, Dokken's got to get out of here too, so let's finish off strong. We'll make it quick. Dokken, give me a couple guys that you might be buying low on, or guys that remind people not to worry because people are freaking out. Yelich hit a home run tonight, 3 walks. I feel dude, stop. People need to stop with Yelich. Chill out with Yelich. Bellinger, same thing. Chill out. But other than the obvious, where you at?
I was off the Yelich. I like the Yelich just burning to the ground. I'm evil.
Okay, Mike the Mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mutual friend.
Yeah. Matt is okay. Yeah. Dokken, where were you?
Next
buddy?
level.
Yeah, sorry.
I love it.
Yeah, no, any of those guys who are just off to slow starts, just buy in on that. That's the thing. So we're citing a lot of these advanced stats and even contact rate, which is one of the first rates to kind of stabilize amongst these things that have such noise in them. I mean, in the course of 8 or 13 games, however many games, a lot of these guys have. Some of these guys that we're looking at have played 3 to 5, 6 games. I mean, it's hard to really cite a whole lot of stats. It's just such a small sample. You can't buy into it a whole lot. If you have those studs, you invested that, strong capital, Christian Yelich, Mike Trout, I somehow wound up having a couple of shares of this year. Before he went on maternity leave, he had 0 RBI and was just killing me. Buy in on all those guys. If anybody's selling low on them, conversely, there's a couple guys that we've talked about tonight. James Paxton, I'm just willing to sell low, just get out from under him. There was somebody who was tweeting me just a week or two ago saying that, should I sell James Paxton for Dylan Bundy? And by God, if you did that before tonight, you're feeling pretty damn good because I believe he could pitch a complete game shutty or maybe gave up one run or something. And even then I said, I tried to maybe aim a little higher than Dylan Bundy, but I think Dylan Bundy may even be a sell high right now. You could probably sell him as an ace. Madison Bumgarner's another guy. His velocity is way down. I'm just going to sell him low. Robbie Ray, I'm sick of you. Lance McCullers, I think he's a guy.
Robbie Ray.
Wait. Don't sell Dylan Bundy. Fuck that. Scratch out what
okay.
Don't sell Dylan Bundy.
Dude, if you could sell Dylan Bundy for a top 15 starter right now, if you could sell him for
he is a top 15 starter. Fuck that. I'm gonna plant my
flag.
That's too rich. That's too rich for me. All right. We're on the board. Top 15 starter the rest of the way.
And if you're wrong,
the under.
Right. And if you're wrong, he has to drink another night like this.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You know
and y'all just home run was inside. Oh goodness, inside the park.
There we go. All right.
I promise you guys too. I never drink liquor like this.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad we brought this out of you. On that note, take your shot. We're gonna end it here. Dokken,
can I give my like buys and like the big players that are like going off to
do it? We're gonna let you finish it off strong.
Just and like that, baby. All right.
So these are big name guys. So this isn't, which is weird for me. This is not NFBC main event format driven. This is like your home leagues, your fun leagues, the people that you're playing with your family, your friends. These are leagues that have trades. So there's guys that have gotten off the slow starts that I think that will, or I know, or I'm confident in that will get off and get going. And Cody Bellinger, we've seen him pick it up. Alex Bregman, Trey Turner, Walker Buehler, Lucas Giolito. So we've seen one terrible start from Lucas Giolito. If you're in a trade league, buy Lucas Giolito. Trade for Lucas Giolito, and you want to own him on your team. Another person like that as in the closer market, we've seen a really erratic closer market. Kirby Yates had not figured it out early, and then he gave up a home run to Cody Bellinger and we had a 2-run lead, and then we saw Kirby Yates give us what Kirby Yates does, and his splitters started to dial in, and the velocity was up. So I think if you can buy low on Kirby Yates, he's somebody that you want to do. But the people that I'm like out on, if you already own them and you're in a trading league and you can sell high or just get rid of the name brand, Rafael Devers, Chris Bryant, Ozzy Albies, Adalberto Mondesi. Those are the hitters that I have for you. If you own them and if you're rostering them, trying to sell high or sell whatever you can on those guys. Pitcher-wise, Zach Greinke, Charlie Morton, Madison Bumgarner, Craig Kimbrell, Hansel Robles, and Sean Manaea. Those are the pitchers that I do not believe in. I didn't believe in them for the most part, except for Hansel Robles. I fucked up. He's burning me badly. He's like literally the Heath Ledger, he's like literally the Joker, like burning money on fire right now. It's Hansel. So I'm like watching thousands of dollars burn. Like,
oh no.
No, like literally.
Right. Awesome.
I know you guys know that I invest, but I don't want to get mushed. But Hansel Robles is somebody that I was high on, and he's burning bank accounts for me. So Ty Buttrey, if he's available,
Buttrey, yeah.
I'm drinking. I'm sorry, I'm buzzed up. That's what I came here for. So I'm being honest.
Well, we all came here for it. We didn't know it, but we came here for it. Like that's what we're here for.
I'm here.
We got Matty Wood where we wanted him. On that note, seriously, guys, appreciate you joining us. Everybody who's been watching in and out the whole show, Yancey, Fish, Brent, everybody. I know these guys by name because these are the same guys that comment every week. I appreciate them. Matt, tell them where they can find you, where you're working, what you're doing, and then of course Nathan will finish off with you as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm still working on the whole Twitter handle. I'm trying to buy out the guy that lives in the UK. I'm trying to buy out the guy that lives in the UK that won't give me the handle. But if you do want to find me on Twitter, it's at Mattywood with an underscore at the beginning and the end, even though it is annoying. So apologies to you guys if you do want to find me. I'm not that great of a follow, but if you can find me there. And yeah, I do most of my work or all of my work now that I'm exclusive at FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, and FTN Bets. It's a multi-site platform. So if you're into betting, if you're into gambling, it's one side. If you're into DFS, it's another. And if you're into season long, it's another. So please find me on Twitter if so. And Mike, thank you so much. And thank you to Michael Simione I hope that his family and friends seriously are safe. I know that they've been battling some weather conditions and whatnot. So I hope that, Mike, I didn't get too drunk to not be invited back because
You'll be back.
All
You'll
right,
be back.
and good, and I can always mix it up. So I could pull out the.
We can
bourbon
actually
cap.
have you on sober. You mean? Holy crap!
You
All
want
right.
to be boozed up, so
All right, all right. Anyway, Dokken, close us out here, man. Where can they
All right,
find you?
man.
Where's your work at?
First off, Yancey said that he's starting a GoFundMe. We're gonna get Matthew Davis, like add Matthew Davis or add Matty Wood. That's what you actually want. We're gonna start a smear campaign against this UK doctor. We're gonna start filing false malpractice suits so that he gets off Twitter, gets banned from Twitter. We're gonna get add Matty Wood for Matthew Davis. So I am going to go back to the cold mailman. No, I'm probably not, but I should. So you can find me now at RotoFanatic. It's going to be, look out for the podcast. It's going to be coming out soon. It's going to be daily. Bunch of great stuff. Ton of great guys over there. I'll be having my written content over there as well. Mike, this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me. I wish I had more beers, honestly, and more time in the day. But
I dude, honestly, this ran longer than I expected. I appreciate you guys joining me for 2 hours of just hellacious. we barely finished the outline. This outline should have gone more than 30 minutes. I knew this was gonna happen. But I honestly, when Mike said he couldn't make it, I brought the party. I couldn't honestly have had a better time. This has been a fantastic time, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, that's at Nathhan Dokken, NATHANDOKKEN. I'm reading it and I still can't say it right. At _ Matty Wood, MATTYWOOD _. And then, of course, at Mike _Kurland. We appreciate you honestly joining us. We can't thank you enough. And we will talk to you next week. As